The Secrets of Doctor Who is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Doctor Who, where we discuss everything about the hit BBC series Doctor Who. And today we're discussing The Sea Devils. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going?
Very well, thanks. Folks, be sure to write an Apple Podcast review of the show and share the podcast with your friends. That helps us grow our community and reach more listeners. And I want to tell you to be sure to get your very own Secrets of Doctor Who t-shirt or phone case or mug and all kinds of other things by visiting sqpn.com/merch. And be sure to stick around to the end of the episode as we've got your feedback on our recent episode on Into the Dalek, the 12th Doctor story. And I want to tell you finally about one other show on the network that you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Star Wars. You can find that at sqpn.com/Star Wars or wherever fine podcasts are found. But like I said, today we're talking about the third Doctor story, The Sea Devils. And we're doing this a little out of order, actually, that we haven't done the Curse of Peladon, the third Doctor story, yet. That comes before this. But we wanted to do this because, as of recording, we are pretty sure that next week, which is Easter Sunday, we're all going to be able to watch the 13th Doctor special, The Legend of the Sea Devils. So we figured, well, let's get the Sea Devils, the original appearance of the Sea Devils in first. So you're going to get that back to back, week to week, and then we'll do the Curse of Peladon after that. It's okay. It's just a little timey-wimey. But so let's talk about the Sea Devils. Jimmy, can you give us a recap of what this one was about?
The third Doctor and Jo Grant play a courtesy call on the Master, who is in a prison on an island in the English Channel. Of course, it turns out that the Master is secretly running the prison, and as usual, he is trying to ally himself with a more powerful force in order to accomplish his evil plans. This time, the more powerful force is a group of Sea Devils who are awakening from hibernation. The Sea Devils are an aquatic version of the Salarians that the Doctor has encountered before, and the Master has been negotiating with them and wants to use them to destroy the human race in order to spite the Doctor, since the Doctor likes humans. Just like when the Doctor previously met the Salarians, he wants to negotiate peace between the Sea Devils and the humans, but this doesn't end up working out because, after they take the Doctor and the Master to their underwater base, the Sea Devils decide they want to start a war and reclaim the planet. So the Doctor reverses the polarity of the neutron flow on a device he's built, turning it into a bomb that can't be shut off. The Doctor and the Master then escape, and the bomb destroys the Sea Devil's base, thus preventing the war. The end.
That is a pretty good summary of a long 6-part story.
Thank you.
There was a lot going on in this story, but a lot of action, but that's pretty much the story right there. One of the things that was fun is this takes place. A lot of this takes place outdoors on location at a naval base.
In cooperation with the Royal Navy. Previously, the show had worked with the Royal Army, but this time Royal Navy, and the Navy got publicity out of it. Doctor Who got free equipment and extras and costumes and stuff. John Pertwee himself is ex-Navy, and so that was special for him to be able to work with the Navy. And they got lots of enthusiastic volunteer extras who wanted to be on screen.
Yeah, lots of actual sailors. Yeah, that was fun.
However, you can tell they've only got 6 Sea Devil costumes because it's the same 6 Sea Devils over and over and over again, trying to make it look like more.
Yeah, including one particular guy that was rather short compared to the rest of them.
And you never saw more than 6 Sea Devils on screen at one time. Yeah, that was.
But you often saw exactly 6.
Yep. Right. Yeah, it's they filmed. I forget what the actual base was, but it was HMS Sea Spite is the base that they in it. But there's also some ships. There's a diving ship, where they have a diving bell that they use later on in the series too.
A real one, and
Yeah.
a fake a basement of an office building that they're using to double for a submarine.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a funny anecdote that after this aired, the Ministry of Defense showed up at the BBC because the model of submarine they used actually included bits that looked like some top secret research stuff that they had been doing. They were like, "Where did you get this
Oops.
information?" We just kind of stuck some
We took
stuff on there.
pictures.
yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny. That happens sometimes in TV shows, I guess, where they depict something and then the military shows up. How do you know about this?
Mhm.
We were just messing around.
Also happens in psychic spying programs.
There's that too.
You could tell the Navy was involved too because there was lots of stock footage of things like the guns going off and things like that.
Oh, and the depth charges, which were cool. I'd never seen how the 70s era depth charges worked. I've seen World War II ones where they roll off the thing, but this is where firing him into the air. It was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the Master was captured
At the end of the Daemons.
Right. And so that's where he is now. So he wasn't in the Curse of Peladon. I guess in this season, which is a new season, Day of the Doctor, they decided to start using the Doctor a little less than they had been.
No, the Master,
sorry,
yeah.
the Master,
So
yeah.
the first season they introduced the Master, he was in every serial. He was not just an episode antagonist or a series antagonist, but for the whole season, he was the antagonist. And after that, they dialed it back to like once or twice a season.
Yeah. So he's in prison, and the Doctor and Joe show up, and they have to take a boat to get to this place. So I gather the fortress is on it, like the fortress that's serving as a prison is on an island.
Yes.
And so they take this long boat trip there, meet with him for about a minute and a half, and they decide they're leaving again. I'm not sure why they went, but it's very. Go ahead.
It is a remarkably brief visit.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting to me how genial the meetings between the Doctor and the Master are. Like when they're just showing up and they're very polite to each other, very friendly. The Master wants to kill the Doctor, but it's all very nice and,
The Master also is nice to Joe. I mean, he's referring to her as Miss Grant, and he's acting considerate and things like that. And his only request to the Doctor in this meeting is that he come by occasionally for a chat.
Right. I suppose the Master's feeling very secure in his position as secretly controlling the base.
And they make a point of demonstrating how he's not in control because the Doctor is concerned, like, has he tried to hypnotize anybody here? And the warden, who's a guy named Trenchard, says all of our men are immune to hypnosis. And the Doctor's like, really? How sure are you of that? And he says, well, I'll show you. So they've got, a camera in the Master's cell, and they send in the new guy, the guard who's just arrived yesterday. So he hasn't encountered the Master before. And he goes into the cell and says to the Master, who's reading a big, thick book, the warden asked if you wanted me to change your book. And the Master says, no, thank you. I'm not finished with it yet. And then he starts to do the whole I am the Master and you will obey me thing. And after he does that for a bit, and, the new guy is just like staring back at him as he's being put under this spell of I am the Master and you will obey me. And then at the end of that, the new guard just says, so you'll let us know when you want the book changed?
So about the guards of this prison.
I had something about that. Yes, go ahead.
So they're wearing this awesome costume where they have like a beret and a cape.
I want to know what service is running this prison? I mean, these are the weirdest looking guard uniforms I've ever seen.
Yes.
They're wearing black pants and a dark blue turtleneck and a black cape joined with a neck chain with these little yin-yang symbols that look like S's in a square.
Yep.
And a black beret. And it's what on earth? This is the weirdest prison uniform thing I've ever seen.
And apparently they're also required to all have bushy Tom Selleck mustaches too.
Yeah.
Like every single one of them. And there isn't a blonde in the bunch. They're all dark hair.
I wonder if it was supposed to be like a private security agency or something like that, or
I don't know.
what? Obviously, this is before the Incredibles too, so the no capes rule didn't apply.
No capes. Yeah, it was
weird looking.
Yeah, that was funny looking. So, the Doctor and the Master talk about how they used to be friends and even schoolmates, which I think is new as of this point.
The mention that they used to be friends that's new in this episode.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that sets the lore that remains to this day. It turns out, of course, like we said, the Master's in control of the Warden. That he's told him not about that they're sea devils, these creatures, intelligent creatures, but he kind of got him thinking that they're spies, and that he's going to be shown to be a hero by exposing a spy ring that's taking out ships in the area, I guess. Something along those lines.
Yeah, so the Sea Devils have been attacking local shipping, and the Master has convinced the Warden. I'm not sure that the Warden has actually been hypnotized. As opposed to just lied to.
Yeah.
But he's convinced him it's enemy agents, and they need to deal with the enemy agents.
That's the same impression I got. It wasn't that the Warden was under his spell. It was convinced by him. And because that's at the end, then the Warden realizes that he's been fooled, but it was too late.
Right.
Yeah. Also, you can tell how friendly the Warden and the Master are when the Doctor's not around, because the Master is talking to the Warden, and he's like, "So can I get another TV for my bedroom?" And he, because he's got one, I guess, in his living room, and he's like, "Yeah, sure. Color, of course. Oh, of course." and then when he gets the TV, they do something they pick up on much further down the line, but we see the Master watching a children's television show called The Clangers. And the Clangers are a group of alien mice. This is a stop-motion animation children's show about a group of alien mice that live on this moon-like planet far out in space, and they subsist on green soup and blue string salad, and the soup is brought to them by a soup dragon from underground. And we see this part of an episode of the Clangers where the Clangers are doing something on the surface of their moon, and the Master's just watching it and enjoying it. And when the Warden comes in, he says, "What on earth are you watching?" And he says, "It seems to be some rather interesting alien life form." and the Master has to explain to them, "These are puppets and it's for children." The Warden has to explain that, and they reprise this years later when what's his name's the new Master from the 10th Doctor's time,
Sims.
John
Sims. Yeah
in the introduction of his Master in The Sound of Drums, he's watching television news and he switches the channel over to Teletubbies. And this alien Toclophane sphere shows up, and he says, "This planet is fantastic. Television's in their stomach. That's evolution." And it's like he again doesn't realize this is children's programming.
Right. Yeah,
well, I got a kick out of the monitors too, or they're basically just boxes with a hole cut in them, and then blinds behind there.
Yeah, blinds for the green screen.
Venetian blinds.
Yeah, that was weird. So once the Doctor hears about the ships disappearing, he's immediately, this is weird, especially in proximity to the Master, and he's heard that there's something over at the naval base nearby that he should check out. There was a lifeboat that had been burned with a particular pattern, and so he wants to go check it out, although it's a top secret naval base. So he bribes the boatman that brought him to the prison to take his boat, and in the conversation, he says
he steals the boat.
Yeah, but I thought he gives him cash to go.
He gave him money. Yeah.
My memory is Joe gave the boatman money to use his motorcycle.
The boatman made out like a bandit. He got from both of them.
He got paid by both. But the Doctor says something about, I hurt my leg in the Crimea or Gallipoli or El Alamein. Well, does it matter? I'm bribing you, so you just pick one. Those all being battles over a long period of time. For the Doctor, it would have had to been El Alamein in World War II. So the master is also very interested in these disappearing ships, and he's it turns out he wants to ally with the Sea Devils, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, also, we have a little foretaste of Missy in this, in that when they're visiting the master, he expresses regret for the things he's done and says that being locked up has given him a chance to reflect on his life, and he wishes actually now he'd been locked up a long time ago because he's got a lot to repent for. And you see that potential for repentance in the master, even though of course he's totally faking it on this occasion.
Mm-hmm. Right. We do see her saying similar things in the 12th Doctor's time about because she's imprisoned and undergoes an apparent reform, and
hers is real in the end.
Yeah. Right. But if you're a long-term Doctor Who fan, you're probably thinking back to this and saying, at the time that first aired. So that was an interesting switch. So the other interesting thing is in this, the Sea Devils are gradually revealed. They're not. So it's a 6 episode story, and we don't see the Sea Devils apart from like a hand or that sort of thing until I think episode 3. I think it is when they get to when the Doctor and Joe ended up on the sea fort where that's at the center of where all the attacks are taking place, and they get chased around the sea fort by the thing,
by the Sea Devil.
Yes, by the Sea Devil. It was interesting to me that the Doctor immediately leaps to the fact that the Sea Devils are a kind of Silurian. Like, they're not even different species, really, but they're just a variation on the Silurians. I thought that was interesting that he went there.
Well, yeah, originally this was called, the working title for this story was called The Sea Salarians.
Okay.
And they ended up changing that, but they also do a bit of retconning or repair work here, because it's been pointed out by anybody who knows the different ages of the Earth's history that the Silurians who lived in dinosaur times and later are grossly misnamed.
Right.
Yes, there is a Silurian period in Earth's history, but it was like 500 million years ago. It was way before dinosaur times. I guess it's after. I'd have to check. I think it's after the Cambrian explosion, but you didn't have anything like this level of complexity in Earth life at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the Doctor hangs a lantern on this and points out that they should be called the Eocenes instead of the Silurians, because that's the real period that they would have been around in.
A little bit of repair work there.
Yeah, which then is promptly forgotten, and they're just the Silurians ever since.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so the Doctor says he wants to negotiate peace with the Sea Devils because of what had happened with the Silurians, which is that after he promised to, bring about peace between humans and Silurians, the Brigadier blew him up and ended up killing them all.
Getting a pattern going here.
Yeah.
Well, and it had been a long time since I'd seen this, and I didn't recall the ending at first, but I was thinking this is heading towards them being blown up just like the Silurians, and that's a little repetitive, and it's not even by Terrence Dicks.
Yeah.
Right.
But they hang a lantern on it and make it work, because they use the previous encounter with the Silurians to drive the drama in this.
Right.
They repeatedly raise the fact that we might have to exterminate these Sea Devils, and we're really trying to avoid that. We're trying to make peace with them so that we don't have a repetition of what happened before.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up having a twist on it, because it is not the military that destroys the Sea Devils. It was the military against the Doctor's will that destroyed the Silurians. But here, the Doctor himself sets the bomb, and so he can't blame the Brigadier.
Right.
He does it, and it's because the Sea Devils have decided they're going to try to reclaim the planet and start this massive war. And so it is their fault, and whereas it was not the Silurians' fault,
right?
At least not
in the same way.
In the same way. So they do give us a variation, even though they both end up with an earth-shattering kaboom.
Mm.
Though it doesn't help much, you've got the stereotypical parliament member, parliament secretary who's a warmonger and just a rube.
Well,
I mean, just a terrible
and a
character,
coward.
period.
And a coward, and so
And a
his
glutton.
name is yes, and a male chauvinist pig.
Yes.
So this guy is named Walker, and he's the private parliament. He is a private parliamentary secretary. Don't know what that means, but it sounds official.
Right.
And he shows up at a certain point in the story and starts trying to direct things at the naval base. And he is just written to be so unsympathetic. I mean, he, as we just listed, he is a misogynist and a glutton and a warmonger and a coward all rolled into one. And he just has nothing redeeming about him in any of his scenes. And, that's lame writing.
It was pretty. Yeah, it's pretty. By the numbers, let's create a bad guy.
On the other character that could have been left off, and I think the episode would have been better for it.
Right.
Yeah. On the other hand, if you really need a boost of self-confidence, you can watch it and you'll easily feel superior to this guy.
Right. There's a fun scene. So once the Doctor and Joe have found the Sea Devils and they go back to the prison, the warden and the master need to keep them under wraps to hide whatever's going on. And we have a moment where the Doctor and the master come upon these conveniently located swords in the middle of a prison on the wall and have a nice sword play. They have a nice sword fight there.
It's such a well-appointed prison, having swords, multiple swords on the walls right outside the cell of the most dangerous prisoner in the universe. That's just what you want on those walls. Nice decor.
Well, they were fencing foils, so I mean, it couldn't be that bad. No,
so we have a nice, a fun sword fight. Pertwee gets to show off his swordsmanship skills there. We also get a bunch of Venusian Aikido in this, which is, I always love when he yells at Kia! He gives him a chop. I love that.
And Joe gets a bunch of stuff to do as well, where she gets to use her escapology and to both get out of things and her infiltration skills to get into things. And she's like little, junior spy lady.
And gets to crawl through a ventilation shaft in a white suit and not get dirty. That's impressive. I can't eat lunch without getting dirty. You
do have kids.
Well, this is true, but I can't blame them. It's me. So the master has decided he's going to help the Sea Devils reconquer the Earth because that's what he does. And at one point, the Doctor and Joe have escaped. And they're trying to get off the island, and they're caught between the master, the prison guards, a sea devil coming from the sea, and a minefield on the beach. So they decide, let's go through the minefield. And I love the fact that as they come to the minefield, it's surrounded by concertina wire. And the Doctor, in order to help Joe, throws himself on the concertina wire so that she can pass through it unharmed. And he does this multiple times. It's very chivalric of him. And then uses his sonic.
It also tells you how thick all that evening wear he's wearing must be.
Well, that's why capes are good. I'm sorry, Edna, but capes can be good. And he also uses his sonic first to detect the mines, but then to detonate them when the Sea Devil tries to chase them into the minefield. Like he deters the Sea Devil with it. So I just thought that was fun.
And then when they go back to proceeding through the minefield, he switches back over to just detecting the mines. And if I'm Joe, I'm thinking, dude, why don't you blow those up in front of us so we don't have to worry about stepping around them?
Yeah, just blow them all up. I really, now that you can, we know you can blow them up.
They didn't have too much further to go, apparently.
Right. So you mentioned this. There's a submarine in this, where there's a submarine going to investigate
there's an office building pretending to be a submarine.
Right.
And they apparently blew all their budget on the prison guard costumes because the naval officers, the captain of this submarine and his first are like wearing business attire. They've got like black pants and black ties and white office shirts with no rank insignia, nothing, just white office shirts.
Yep. They look like waiters.
Yeah, they look like waiters.
They did show the captain with an actual naval uniform on. That was when he was in the office. But then it was, after that, there's just looks like
that was Captain Hart.
Office.
Yeah, that was Captain Hart from the naval base.
They also showed the submarine captain.
Oh,
they did, but it was
Yeah.
in a much later scene, and it's like, why don't you have them wearing that all the time?
That's true. That's true.
Because it's Casual Friday on the sub.
Yeah, I my guess is that it's because they filmed the so-called submarine scenes in an office building that was not on a naval base, and they didn't have the Navy uniforms for them.
Perhaps.
But then when they're filming on the naval base, it's easy to say, can we just borrow a naval jacket for this guy?
Perhaps.
I'd be surprised though if BBC Wardrobe doesn't have many versions of naval uniforms they could use.
Probably just time or something. Yeah.
By the way, the guy, I forget his name, but the guy who plays the captain, who's really, I mean, I was surprised.
The base captain.
Because no.
Oh,
the sub captain.
Yep.
The sub captain. So the sub captain is this. He looks really young, and I looked it up, and it was like he must have been 29 at the time. And he's got a little bitty beard, and he's really skinny. And he is the same actor who, in the 12th Doctor's time, plays Rassilon.
Oh.
Really?
And, yes. And his name, his name is Donald Sumter. And he looks so different as Rassilon because he's, 50 years older.
Wow.
But he's the sub captain. And it's like, I had no idea that was the same guy. I mean, he looks completely different because as Rassilon, he's balding and his body type has changed and he's clean shaven and he's gray and it very different guy. I would never suspect that's the same guy.
Wow. Yeah, he looks a lot older. He was also in Wheel in Space, so that was the other one he was in.
Yeah, and also in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Okay. Yeah,
and he was considered for one of the roles in Time Flight, but fortunately fate spared him that indignity.
Yeah.
So I also noticed that the sub-captain calls his first officer number 1, which is just a nice Star Trek
naval thing. Naval thing.
No, I get that it's a naval thing, but number 1. But it reminded me of Star Trek, so I thought it was fun. The submarine gets immobilized by it gets like the power turned off mid sub and sinks to the bottom, which I'm thinking. That's not really how that would work. They could still blow ballast and surface even without power, but okay.
They talk about that, and all their systems are malfunctioning.
Yeah. I guess. Okay. Yeah. Like I suppose if they really messed with all the systems.
Well, I was going to say, in minimum, the sub should be rigged to be buoyant at neutral buoyancy.
Yeah, it should be. It would be at neutral buoyancy, right? But okay, whatever. That's fine. Well, you got to have a story. So the master has built a device. He builds 2 devices in this one. And the first one is a device that calls the Sea Devils, like it's like a Sea Devil phone, but also a Sea Devil caller, like literally like a dog whistle. It's a Sea Devil whistle too.
By the way, before we leave the sub, it seems, and they may deal with it in a line of dialogue somewhere, but it seems to me that after a certain point, the sub just kind of drops out of the plot because it's a kind of a negotiating chit for a while between the Sea Devils and the humans about what's going to happen to the sub. Are you going to let it go its way? Are you going to keep it hostage? What are you going to do? And then after a certain point, it just seems to stop being relevant. And some of the characters that were on it have gotten off. And the Sea Devils have apparently unloaded equipment from the sub because the Doctor and the Master use the wetsuits to escape at the end. But I didn't get closure on what about the sub itself and all of its crew.
Yeah. Right. There's a point at which the crew are cooperating with the Sea Devils under duress, I gather. And I think there's a line that goes by pretty fast where the Doctor, in one of his trips down to the Sea Devil lair, talks about like freeing them somehow. I think because they're in a cell and he gets them out of it, and I think that's where they get free.
Well, there's a whole scene where they like break the sub out of the harbor that they're in and surface and bring the Doctor back. Right. There's a scene where they have to push their way through. Yeah. Well, they're held by a force shield, and then they launch torpedoes, and
right.
And then that's the last we see of the sub.
Okay. I think I was, I think I was
Is
kind of
that
tired.
right when
Yeah.
the stock footage of the Navy starts shelling the base?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That might
Pretty
have been,
close.
yeah. You're right. Now I remember
That's
that.
really aggressive stock footage.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of good stock footage. There's a lot of battle scenes where a lot of shooting and running around in this one. So there's a lot of that going on.
And as usual with John Pertwee, we have all of these vehicles that people get to travel in,
Yep.
Yeah.
including conveniently
boats.
placed jet skis
Yeah,
and
Yeah, exactly.
gigantic hovercraft, which Joe gets to know. Joe knows how to
Yes.
pilot and does.
Nice. Yes. Hovercraft aren't a thing as much anymore. I mean, I know that the U.S. Marines have hover landing craft, but like
Mhm.
hovercraft like that, like back in the 70s, everyone thought the future is hovercrafts. Everything's going to be hovercrafts. It's
And
just one of
there's
those
still
fun
a few
things.
in commercial use over in England, but
Yeah.
it's not like everybody thought it was going to be that they're going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I like at the end of the episode, after the Doctor and the Master have escaped, the Master switches places, pretends to faint, and
Mhm.
then switches places with some guy and puts a Master mask on him so he can escape and steal the hovercraft. And at the end, he's like piloting the hovercraft away and just waving at the Doctor.
Like, where's it going? Like, where's it going to go? Like, they just
Back to
follow
his
the
tortoise.
hovercraft, I guess. I love the reverse Silence of the Lambs, where he puts a mask of his face on the other
Yes.
guy as opposed to the other way around, which is less creepy a bit, but it is kind of creepy. He just happens to have
Maybe he put lotion on the guy's skin. I don't know.
Oh.
But maybe it is kind of creepy. He happens to have a mask of his own face on him, but always be prepared.
It is nice reversal though, because normally it's the Master disguised as someone else, and here the Master has disguised someone else as him.
Yeah, right. That's true. I want to talk about another character who gets an interesting arc in this story, which is Captain Hart, who is the captain
Mhm.
of the base, who starts out somewhat unsympathetic at the beginning, but really becomes heroic by the end. I really came to really enjoy that character. So it's a really fun character arc in there for him.
Yeah. Also, Trenchard, the guy who's cooperating with the Master, the prison warden, he's not a bad guy. And they even though he's working with the Master, he's portrayed as having innocently been tricked.
Yep.
And you can tell at a certain point he's going to die because the Master tells him, what are his exact words? He says, trust me, all your troubles will soon be over. And anytime the Master tells you, trust me, all your troubles will soon be over, that's a death threat.
Run!
And and so the guy ends up being killed by Salarians. And afterwards, they're talking about, well, why would he work with the Master? And the Doctor talks to Captain Hart, the naval base commander, and says, well, what would you say his most notable trait was? And he says, I think it would be his patriotism, or as they say over there, patriotism. And the Doctor says that must be what the Master exploited. So they're making it out. He really did have patriotic motives. He really was a good guy. He was just tricked.
Right. So there's an interesting plot moment where the Doctor has been captured by the Sea Devils. They've got him down in their base. The Master's there trying to convince them to kill the Doctor. They're ignoring him. And just as the Doctor is convinced the Sea Devils that the humans are not really a threat, that there can be peace, this is when Walker's decision to go to war with the Sea Devils takes place, and they start depth charging the base. And it's this moment where like the Doctor just gets to that point. They've just convinced them, and of course, this is when the attack begins.
And so later, the Doctor is like storming around saying, "Who is the idiot that authorized that attack?" And Walker is like, "I'm the idiot you've been talking about. Absolutely splendid lunch, old man."
Right. Oh my gosh, that guy with his food and lunches. I love the yeoman who, like Blythe, who just kind of kept like subtly not rolling her eyes at him at every command.
Blythe is very long suffering.
She is.
There's also another nice food bit though that's on the Doctor earlier because Blythe, the yeoman, has brought a plate of cheese sandwiches for Joe to eat for lunch, and the Doctor is like, Joe, this is hardly the time for sandwiches. And he takes the plate from Blythe before Joe can even get one of the little sandwich triangles. And he turns around and starts talking to Captain Hart and eating the sandwiches himself.
Yeah.
And then he offers them to Captain Hart and offers them to Blythe, and there's nothing left for Joe. and Blythe just says, I'll go get you some more.
Yeah. The doctor does realize what he's done at the end and apologizes, but
At the very end.
After all the food is gone, poor Joe, long-suffering Joe. So once again, the master gets the doctor to help him build a weapon or device. This is a recurring theme at this point, where the doctor is captured by the master, who forces him to build something for him. And in this case, it's a device that's going to wake up all of the sea devils, because the problem is that for some reason their sleep capsules,
their
are
alarm
malfunctioning.
clock didn't go off.
Right. And so they need help to get it fixed, to wake all the thousands and thousands of sea devils up to
millions, say.
Yeah, to battle to retake the earth from the humans. And so the master gets the doctor to help. I'm sorry, but the master, for all of his smarts, is really dumb about some things, including the fact that the doctor will always sabotage the device you're forcing him to build. It's just a fact. So yeah.
Oh, gee, I switched to plugs. Oops.
Yeah. Oh, was that an input and an output? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I think we've got a twisted psychological relationship between these two characters, where they both know how it's going to play out, and they feel compelled to do it anyway.
Right. And of course, the Sea Devils turn on both of them. They take the master captive as well, and so the doctor has to break them both out of the base as he's set the device to explode. So they
insert shock-faced meme here, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then
but by this point, the doctor he reveals to the master, and this is a special moment because this is the only time in John Pertwee's period where he actually utters the words, "I reversed the polarity of the neutron flow."
Yeah.
He other times will say, "I reversed the polarity" or stuff, and in the 5 Doctors, he again mentions the neutron flow. Right. But in his own time as the doctor, this is the only occasion on which he actually says the phrase. And so that's very special. And despite the fact you might be wondering, so how would neutrons flow? Because normally we think of electricity as, moving electrons, and they're charged. And hypothetically, you could get protons flowing too, and they're also charged, so you could accelerate them. But neutrons are neutral, so how would you get them flowing? Well, actually, this does make sense. Neutrons are half-spin fermions, and so they can be polarized with a magnetic field. And so even though they're neutral in their electrical charge, they are polarizable in a way that they can be manipulated into a beam by a magnetic field. Mm-hmm. And so it actually does make sense, despite what you might think.
Okay. Glad we cleared that up. That went over my head. But
Well, I've got a link I'll send. Maybe we can put it in the show notes.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good. So they escape. They get into these the conveniently placed submariner rescue outfits. They're basically inflatable wetsuits that will bring you to the surface if you have to escape from a submarine at depth. And so we get this great scene of Pertwee and Delgado floating in the ocean, getting rescued by this hovercraft. And I'm like, these guys were game for a lot. These are not stuntmen. This is Delgado trying to climb onto the side of this hovercraft. It was not easy for him, I could tell. They really got into this episode. And then, like you said, they have this, the master escaping, pretends to be injured and escapes at the end because he always does, and the doctor always falls for it.
Well, except when he gets captured.
Right, that's true.
Or dies.
Yes. I suppose that's true. And that's where we end things. So, I mean, from my point of view, I like this episode. There was a lot of fun action, a lot of cool reversals, and I'm a sucker for a good naval battle plot anyway. But how about you guys? Any final thoughts or on this episode?
I I agree with you, Dom. This is a good one. And for a six-parter, it moved pretty good. I mean, there was still the chasing around corridors or open fields or things like that. But beyond that, it was still I thought it was a pretty good episode. Although I would love to have one of those open door Citroen cars that they were chasing around in with no doors, no top. That looks like it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But
how about you, Jimmy?
When I saw those, I wondered, why don't they have doors on these cars? And we see why. It's so that additional guys can stand. Mm-hmm. Not only can you put people in the car, but you can have guys standing where the doors would be and like hanging on through the sunroof of the car.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you can pack more guys in it and take them somewhere as you're searching for Joe Grant.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's see. Additional notes. Well, there's a scene where the doctor is in the warden's office, and while the warden is not there, the doctor. It turns out that both Captain Hart and Warden Trenchard are golfing buddies, and they have an upcoming game that they've been talking about. And so while the warden is away, the doctor takes a glass, a drinking glass, and puts it on the floor and takes the golf putter and a golf ball and blindfolds himself and holes in one the drinking glass. So the doctor is not only a golfer, he can golf blindfolded.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of some things I don't like in this. There's a lot of paint by numbers conflict writing, where you just, it's in these old TV shows and radio shows, you frequently have this kind of cliched writing style where what's going to happen. I mean, you can guess pretty well what the next few lines are going to be. So you have characters just disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing. Yep. And then eventually you get past that. And I'm not a fan of that style of writing. You also have cliches like, that's a risk you'll just have to take. And and we get that here where they're talking about escaping, having people escape from the underwater cave, and they're going to be torpedoes and stuff. And it's like, that's just a risk you'll have to take, or they'll have to take, or I'll have to take, or we'll have to take. I've heard that line so many times. It seems to me that that's fallen out of fashion in writing these days. I don't hear that kind of writing, that specific phrase, but also this kind of writing, I think is handled more realistically than it used to be. The Sea Devil costumes are pretty awful.
Yeah.
They have, it's clear that the Sea Devil heads, well, they have really long necks, which are shaped suspiciously like a human head.
Yes.
And then they have a Sea Devil head sitting on top of the human head-shaped neck. The Sea Devil heads don't change their facial expressions. One of them has a slightly articulate jaw that he can use when he's making hissing English sounds. They also have these certain great blue mesh surgical smock-looking things that they're wearing. They look like escaped patients or something, or escaped doctors. I don't know. And they have these, I know this is not what they're meant to be because they didn't have CD players in 1971, but they look like open-faced CD player ray guns.
Right.
And initially these ray guns are presented as like devastating, and people are shooting at the Sea Devils and it's not having any effect. But then by episode 6, all of a sudden when they're retaking the fortress base, the guns are working. And they're mowing down Sea Devils, the same 6 over and over again like crazy with ordinary slug throwers.
Yep.
So that was kind of fun to see. Even if it was inconsistent, it's nice to see ordinary weapons work.
They must have got some better ammo for the later siege.
It'll be fun to see the redesigned costumes in the present day, in the 13th Doctor special that's coming up with those. How they do that.
Don't get your hopes too high.
Yeah.
I did feel some sympathy for the poor guys inside those costumes having to wear them while swimming out of the ocean. That could not have been easy.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I happened to look up. So I always think of this version of the Master as Roger Delgado, but I happened to look it up, and he's got a prodigiously long real name. His full name is Roger Cesar Marius Bernard Delgado Torres Castillo Roberto.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is quite a name. That I mean, there's got to be a story behind all of that.
Probably several.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So that does it for the Sea Devils. I mentioned we have a little bit of feedback, so let me just get to that here. We had on our episode on Into the Dalek, the 12th Doctor episode recently, where Ted Colville on Facebook writes, upon my rewatch of this episode and knowing what to expect, I enjoyed the grumpy Doctor. Maybe it's a reflection of my personality. I didn't like the anti-soldier rhetoric. You guys talked around the subject without saying it outright, but the Doctor is a soldier. He may not wear a uniform or carry an automatic weapon, but he performs the actions of a soldier.
Like reversing the polarity of the neutron flow and making an unstoppable bomb.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I think we've mentioned it before, where the Doctor is in many ways essentially a soldier. I think with the 11th Doctor, a good man goes to war, and other times like that, we've mentioned how he has been, and frankly, the 3rd Doctor working with UNIT.
There's times that they have brought that up explicitly too in the show of, you can tell a soldier when you see one, kind of, those kind of lines and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, psychologically, the Doctor has such a repulsion to military because he knows he's of the same ilk.
Right. He was the war doctor. I mean, right there. So thanks,
Well,
Ted.
and even before the War Doctor, you can argue that whenever, I mean, you think about the classic Doctors and who's the most down on military, the 3rd, and who's the one that works closest with the military, the 3rd.
Yeah,
and you can argue that he's got self-loathing going on even at this period. And he is criticizing the military in order to somehow distinguish his own actions from theirs.
Yeah.
When really he's willing to do the same things, but he doesn't want to admit that to himself.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. But thank you, Ted, for your feedback. We really appreciate that, and we'd love to get your feedback. You can send feedback like Ted did on our Facebook page, or you can email us at doctorwho@sqpn.com. So we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Doctor Who, including Lee V, Sean F, Dan and Jill K, Deacon A, and Michael D. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Doctor Who and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And we'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edits the show for us every week. So we'd love to hear what you think of the Sea Devils. Let us know by commenting at sqpn.com or the Secrets of Doctor Who Facebook page, or, like I said, send an email to doctorwho@sqpn.com, or visit the StarQuest Discord community, which is brand new, at sqpn.com/discord. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the 13th Doctor special, Legend of the Sea Devils. Until then, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Doctor Who.
Thank you, Dom.
Jimmy Akin, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Doctor Who on StarQuest. And remember, what else could I possibly say? Reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.